message yet? Yep. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to everyone. It is Thursday, January 3rd, 2019. This is our first board meeting of the year, and we're glad to see all of you students from the 4 high schools here with your parents. We'll begin with roll call. And we have Dale Hanson, Business Manager, Terry Rhodes, Board Member, Jeff Nielsen, Board Member, Alan Gruding, Board Member. I'm Kathy Christiansen, Board Member, Roger Pulsifer, Board Member, Steve Norton, Superintendent, Randall Bagley, Board Member, and Larry Jepson, Board Member. And we're going to go ahead and begin with the pledge and our mission statement. I forgot to ask anyone ahead of time, but Superintendent, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yep.
Thank you.
Whoa, you moved the flag on us. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You got the pledge, everyone? Yeah, I haven't got it up.
Our mission is to educate students for success in a changing world.
Thank you. Okay, I'm really excited that we're going to be starting with our fall academic all-state recipients. And we have students from all 4 schools here who have exceeded not only in sports, but also in their academic accomplishments at school. And really want to congratulate you. That's a lot of work, and we're really very proud of you. On the back of your agendas, there is a list of all of the students' names. That will just be there so that
you might want to pick one up as a souvenir, not the agenda side, but the other side.
But for the other one. And we're going to go ahead and start with Skyview first.
Okay. I'm not sure how many are here. We've got a wrestling match going on tonight. We've got a ball game, but those that are here can come on up. From cross country, we've got Kate Olson. From, come on up. From girls soccer, we've got Sydney Barlow. From football, we've got Kate Archibald. Football, Peyton Bagley. I think he's wrestling tonight. Volleyball, Selena Larson. Congratulations. Also from volleyball, Kristen Schumann. Girls cross country, Natalie Orr. Girls tennis, Jessie Oxborough. So that is our academic all states from Skyview. Congratulations to them. I apologize that we don't have more of them here tonight, but doing a great job. Thank you for. Okay. Thank you for representing Skyview, and
let's give them a hand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are your parents here tonight? Yeah. Well, let's recognize them. Would you stand? We'll recognize you. Thank you. Okay, moving south, we'll go ahead and have Ridgeline next. Oh, wait a minute. That's not next, but that's okay. Yeah, we'll still do it.
You're moving south. You got it.
Yeah.
Okay, if I could have the Ridgeline students come up, please. So we had, we don't have them all here, of course, but we had 18 academic all-states in the fall sports in 6 different sports. And I think I'll give your certificates out there after we're done here. But if you'll go ahead, I've kind of give most of you a warning. If you'll just say your name, the sport, and then just really quickly what you're going to do after high school.
I was the one that wasn't prepared for this. I'm Rebecca Odd. I was in volleyball, and after high school, I'm planning to go to BYU, Idaho to study fashion design.
My name's Ivy Davies. I play volleyball, and after I graduate, I'm moving to Ukraine to teach English for 4 months, and then I'll start college in the spring.
My name is Jenny Albrechtson. I play tennis, and I'm going to study social work.
My name is Michaela Hill. I ran cross country, and my plan is to study social work and then go on a mission, hopefully.
I'm Hallie Gittins, and I ran cross country, and I'm planning to go to Utah State and go on an LDS mission.
My name is Sadie Anderson. I played girls tennis, and I hope to go to Utah State or BYU after high school.
My name is Megan Kendrick, and I played soccer, and I plan to go away and study marine biology.
I'm Betsy Fuentes, and I ran in cross country, and I'm going to be going, hopefully, to college.
And as I think is true with all the academic All-States, their GPA is a 4.0 for each of them. So, and are there parents here? If there are parents here, will they stand, please?
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, we'll have Green Canyon next.
Don't forget to pick you up a copy of the agenda. So you
We have a few of them here tonight. We're missing a couple, but just so we give them the recognition also. For football, we had Bryson Taylor. Peyton, I'm going to have you help me with those. So, for boys cross country, Jackson Hansey, Tucker Jukes, Peyton Jones, Tanner Schultz, and Justin Wagner. For boys golf, Ryan Jepson. For girls tennis, for girls cross country, Abigail Israelson. For volleyball, we had 3 of them, Abigail Crane, Hannah Gibson, Shan Nagley, and then for girls soccer, we had Aaliyah Gunnell. Congratulations. And if their parents are here, would you guys stand up? We had a little dinner for them that we got to celebrate with the parents a little while ago, but it's always nice to tell the parents, good job.
picture time, don't be leaving.
And now Mountain Crest.
Thank you. Mountain Crest, if I could have you come join me, please. We had 7 students being recognized for Academic All-State. We also have wrestling matches and basketball going on this evening. But we have Dylan Crystal, who's not here with us this evening. And Dylan is being recognized for golf. And I'm just going to recognize the students who aren't here as well. Dylan's parents are Brock and Jamie Crystal, and Dylan also will be competing in soccer. Hopefully, he'll make the team. He's been active in that, and he's also active in National Honor Society. I also, while I introduce the students, I'm also going to mention things that they're doing academically because, as Bob mentioned, these students carry a 4.0, but I want you to know that doesn't come because they're taking easy classes. I think that you would find that these students are taking a lot of advanced placement classes and concurrent classes. So Dylan has been active in 3 trimesters of advanced placement classes, and by the time he graduates, will have taken 10 concurrent classes as well. After he finishes high school, he plans to serve an LDS mission and then attend college. And I'll give you guys your certificates afterwards as well. Rebecca Stephenson, here at my left, also has a 4.0 GPA. Her parents are Brian and Annette Stephenson. Are your parents here? Yes? Okay. There she is. Rebecca is being recognized for cross country. She's also been involved in orchestra and choir. She also serves on our executive council and has been very busy with that this year. She's also served several trimesters as a special needs peer tutor, and we appreciate her efforts there. She has taken 9 trimesters of advanced placement courses and 4 concurrent classes. After high school, she plans to attend Utah State for 1 year and then serve an LDS mission. Kaylee Lott, give us a little wave. Kaylee, and Kaylee's mom is here. And Kaylee's parents are Jason and Janet Lott. Her sport is soccer. She's also involved in the National Honor Society. She's involved in 3 trimesters of advanced placement and also has completed 6 concurrent classes by the time she finishes high school. She plans to attend Utah State and wants to major in business marketing and also serve an LDS mission. Also have Sarah Nelson here, and her parents are David and Emily Nelson. Her sport is tennis. She's also involved in choir. She has completed 14 AP classes and 1 concurrent class. After high school, she wants to major in biochemistry and is planning to attend Utah State or BYU. Also not with us tonight is Jace Dart. His parents are Craig and Susan Dart. He's been involved in football, wrestling, and track. He'll do in the spring. 3 trimesters of AP and 8 concurrent classes. After high school, he'll serve an LDS mission and then probably will attend Utah State. And Cordell Welch, Kevin and Joyce Welch. He's been involved in basketball, tennis, football, and is also a member of the HOSA Club. 12 trimesters of AP, 4 concurrent classes. He's planning to serve an LDS mission and then attend SUU, where he'll major in pre-med or biology. These are our students from Mountain Crest. Thank you. And if we could have their parents stand up, please, and be recognized. Thanks so much.
Thank you, students. Parents, we appreciate your efforts in helping them attain these great goals.
I think we have.
Okay, did we have one gal come in late who we need to recognize?
Yeah. On back row.
All right. Which school
What
are you
school?
from? Ridgeline. Okay.
You and Bob get to come up and have your own little time.
So what I had everybody do is say their name and their sport and then tell a little bit about their life history, about 15 minutes worth. Okay? Or you can take about 5 seconds and just kind of say what you're going to do in the future. You choose.
Okay, I'm Rebecca Oborn. I did cross country, and I'm hoping to go to Utah State and study music therapy.
Perfect. And are your parents here? Did you come by yourself? Okay. All right.
Do-overs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on with our agenda then. The next item on our agenda is public input, and if any of you would like to stay, you're welcome to stay, but this is a great time to skip out if you want to leave.
About 2 years older than you. Yeah, I thought she was a kid. I thought she was one of those. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. There is no public input. So we will go ahead and move to our board business items and begin with the swearing in of our re-elected school board members, which will be Terry Rhodes, Alan Grunig, and Larry Jepson. If you'll just, oh, and Roger. And Rand? Oh my gosh. So it's not you. All right, I should have written this down. Anyway, those of you who are new, go ahead, have been elected, go ahead and we'll swear you in.
This is very painless. But raise your right hand to the square, and repeat after me. I, and state your name, having been elected to the office of school board member, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Excellent.
Well,
Yeah, let's get a picture.
Hands up, let's see it, everybody. Come on.
You want the full? You want
Yeah, let's do it, let's go to these. All right.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the board member election for president, and I will turn that over to Dale for him to take care of this.
Okay, the office of school board president and vice president is a 2-year elected position by the board. And so we are coming to the end of the last 2-year term with Kathy serving as president and Roger serving as vice president. And so we would, I guess I'd like to open up nominations for a member of the board to serve as board president for the next 2 years.
I nominate Kathy Christiansen for president.
I second the motion.
Just a minute, I got to keep track of these things here too, so. Okay, are there any other nominations?
I move that nominations cease.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor of nomination cease, I guess it would be at this point, would you indicate by the raise of the right hand? Okay, thank you. And so by acclamation, Kathy, congratulations as being our new board president.
Okay, thank you.
And for the office of vice president, then we would take nominations for a board member to fill that position.
I'd like to nominate Roger Pulsifer. as for the position of Vice President.
I second that motion.
Okay.
I move nomination cease.
And I second that.
Okay. All right, and take a vote on nomination Cs. Those in favor indicate by raising the right hand. And I won't take any opposed because that's everyone. And so by acclamation, Roger, congratulations. Serves the next 2 years as our Vice President. Thank you very much.
All right. We will go ahead then and move down to our consent agenda. I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make the motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
Any discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Roger.
Come on, buddy.
Me.
I'm always nervous about this. Will it come or won't it come?
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimous in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you, Dale. All right, let's move down to our action agenda. First of all, we'd like to begin with a request for the approval of the CAPSA Human Sexuality Curriculum, and that will be Tim and Shelley Hayland.
How is everyone?
Good.
I think last time we were here, you had trouble with the PDFs. We got those back on. Did anyone have any trouble with those after
Is
that?
that mic on?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, are there any questions about the content of this curriculum that we're providing for our students?
Okay. We'll go ahead and vote then on approval of the CAPSA Human Sexuality Curriculum.
I move that we approve the CAPSA Human Sexuality Curriculum.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimous in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will now have the approval of the new Skyview Student Club, the Young Americans for Freedom. Alrighty, I'll take a motion to approve the new Skyview Student Club, the Young Americans for Freedom.
I move that we approve the new Skyview Club for, what is it? Help me, I forgot. Young Americans for Freedom.
I second it.
Any discussion or questions?
I have a question for Ryan. So, did you read the Constitution before you came tonight?
Yeah, I did.
And you're okay with those two statements? That the forces of international communism are at present the greatest single threat to these liberties, and the U.S. should stress victory over rather than coexistence with this menace?
I'm fine with it as long as you're fine with it. I would be fine with amending it and sending it to them for approval.
Well, you can't amend it because it's a national constitution. I just wondered if you read it.
Yeah, I did. I
Okay.
did.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and vote then.
All the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we will move to the approval of the new Mountain Crest Student Clubs.
Okay, do you want me just to go in order of, or do you have all of them?
We just
We
approve
have
them as a block.
Oh, okay.
So is there anything you want to say about them before we?
Yes, well, we're throwing one of the clubs out, the Ninja Club, because we do not have an advisor. So they did not completely fill out the application before we submitted that. So we're sorry.
Okay.
That was our fault on that one.
All right, well, then I will accept a motion to approve the 5 new Mountain Crest student clubs.
I move that we approve the new Mountain Crest student clubs except the Ninja Club.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll vote.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all the votes are in, unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is a request for the approval of the administration of medication policy change.
Correct. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So a few more changes I don't think will be too bad that Terry reminded me today that even though this policy was written only a couple of years ago, last year, the state of Utah recodified some of those codes. So as we looked through it, it looked like there were about 5 of those that needed to be changed. Just
okay.
Thank you for the reminder, Terry.
All right. Hey, does your secretary put them up, or does Jenda put them up?
Jenda does, but I'll talk to her about making those changes on that.
Okay, and there are a few editing things that I think she'll catch if when she puts it up, if she'll go through it.
Well, we were only changing one word.
I know, but there's some, I'm trying to get away from editing everybody's work here and just let Jenda look it over and do it.
I'll talk to her about that.
Okay, all right.
Remember, you're dealing with an English teacher here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So, okay, I will take a motion then for the approval of the administration of the medication policy change.
I make the motion that we approve the administration of the medication policy change.
I second it.
Any discussion or questions?
So did you decide that the changes within the codification were not significant enough to?
No, they were exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah. The one that threw us off was there were actually two codes in this. One of the code didn't change, didn't recodify. The other one did, so it should be fine.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote.
Okay, the votes are all in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
All right, next we will look for the approval of the school lunch fee increase for the school year 2019 and 20. And that's you too.
That's me.
All right.
We came last time seeking a 10-cent increase in lunch prices across the board.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the school lunch fee increase for the school year 2019-20.
I move that we approve the school lunch fee increase for the 2019-2020 school year.
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll vote on that.
Okay, the votes are all in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is the, let's see, where are we? The approval of the board policy establishing elementary class groupings, parent input.
There were 2 changes that you guys had requested. One, that we take principal and not capitalize that, and we got 2 out of 3 of those. I believe we still have 1 in there. We will get that changed. The other, I believe Terry asked that we put a 2-week minimum on that open window for parents to give input, so that's been added.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the establishing elementary class grouping parent input board policy.
I move that we approve the board policy that this piece, establishing elementary class groupings with parent input.
I second it.
Any questions, discussion?
Remind me where this policy is going? I mean, where this piece is, what policy is this piece going into?
Well, this was clear down under, there's a piece in there that talks about school choice. And this was item F of all of that school choice stuff in there.
So it's,
So
the policy itself is called school choice?
This, I don't have it in front of me. I had it last time we were here, but I didn't bring my big turquoise binder. But it was under the school choice piece of that. But as I talked with Kirk McCrae, that needs more work than just this did. That school choice, what is in the policy in the old written form.
It's changed.
It's changed quite a bit. They have forms that we're using in the district under HR that are up to date with the current laws that the state has, but the policy itself is way out. So he was going to take some time to readjust that. I just wanted to get this piece in there because some of our principals want to use kindergarten registration as part of their 2-week window for parent input for the kindergartners.
Any other questions or discussion?
So you're bringing that whole policy back sometime?
Kirk McCrae is going to, I believe, yes. This was
Okay.
my piece of it.
All right, okay. So we'll look for it in that whole policy?
Yes.
All right.
And to be honest, I'm not sure it fits under that policy. I don't know that that's the best place for it either.
Okay.
But
We'll find a home for it.
yeah,
Okay.
And you'll let us know?
we'll let you know where to find
Okay.
it. Is that where it is?
The name of the policy?
Student membership eligibility.
Okay. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So we either didn't go deep enough to get to F, or it wasn't under that.
Okay, we'll wait until we see the rest of the policy. Let's go ahead and vote on it, on this part, or this piece of the policy.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Next is the request for approval of the sale of the Wellsville Elementary site to Wellsville City. That's you.
Yeah, so we have finalized an agreement with Wellsville City where they would like to purchase the site of the old Wellsville Elementary. It's made up of, I think, about 2.5 acres of land is all it is. We did get the bid in today for the demolition of that building. Originally, we had a reserve set aside of $750,000 to take care of that, but the actual cost came in at about $392,000. So that's excellent, yeah.
High five there.
So that'll free up some funding for capital outlay projects too. So that's all good news. But so the purchase price of that is $195,000. That was the appraised value of the property. So we will raise the building and then finish off the land just to smooth it out, and then we'll turn it over to the city.
So we don't have to plant grass or anything, we just level it and clean it up?
Yeah, I don't think we're putting a sprinkling system in that in for them, so I think it was just to level it out, take the concrete out of the ground and everything, so that'd be good land right there.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the sale of the old Wellsville Elementary site to Wellsville.
I move that we approve the sale of the old Wellsville Elementary site to Wellsville City.
I second it.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll vote.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
All right, thanks. Okay, and the last one here is approval for the sale of the old Cache High School building.
Yeah, we do have, I know we talked about this in executive session, that we do have a buyer for the old Cache High property. And actually, they're anxious to move into the building. They'd actually like to close on the sale next Monday, if with your approval here to let us move ahead.
Awesome.
So they have all the funding available for that to happen. So everything is lined up perfectly with our approval here tonight. We can share that with someone else starting next Monday.
Okay, I'll take a motion for the approval of the sale of the old Cache High School building.
I make the motion that we approve the sale of the old Cache High School building.
I second the motion.
Any questions, discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Just barely showed up.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Thank you, Dale, for all the work you did on that, and Scott, and anybody else who helped. Please express our appreciation for that. It all turned out really well. I'm sure it looks easy from sitting at this point, looking at it, but I'm sure there was a lot of work that went into that. All right, we'll go ahead and move into our reports agenda, and we are going to begin with Preston. Are you the one who's helping us with this? Okay, the proposed refunding of GO bonds. Thank you.
It's wonderful to be here tonight and see all the faces of so many of the great administrators that have run this district so well. That's not been the case with all the districts that we've worked with, and it's been a little bit painful to see some of the really good friends over the years disappear and move on to different phases of their life. But Matt and I are appreciative of the opportunity to be here tonight and to give you a little bit of an update. The last series of bonds that the district issued were done in March of 2016, so we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary. And part of our job is to continue to monitor and look at opportunities that are out there. The oldest of the 4 series of bonds is the Series 2009 issue, which I think's just a few pages in. And the call date on those bonds came up on December 15th. So we could do a refunding really any time. Nobody wants to do a refunding around Christmas or the holidays. And so our goal tonight is to just give you a little bit of an update on the opportunity that confronts you, and then maybe come back at your next board meeting on the 17th with what they call a parameters resolution that has the box into which the financing fits in terms of the par amount, the number of years, the interest rate. And one of the things that we've experienced over the last, I guess, 5-6 weeks has been a real downdraft in the stock market. But what's really bad for the stock market happens to be really good interest rate wise. And so we've actually seen interest rates improve pretty much for 6 weeks straight. And to help kind of kick things off, I had some discussions with Dale, I guess about 6 weeks ago, and we talked about something that the district could do immediately that would benefit the patrons of this community. What we determined was that there would be property tax collections in December and January to make a payment on bonds principal in June. And rather than investing the money in the state treasurer's pool, we send out a notice to redeem the bonds that come due on June 15th of 2019, and those will be redeemed next Friday, a week from tomorrow, at face value, and those bonds were at 3.3% interest. And so we're hopeful that will save the district about $4,000 or $5,000, and we didn't lose any time on redeeming those with monies that you'd already have on hand. In other words, we paid them off about 150 days early because the reinvestment rate is less than the interest rates that you pay on the bonds. The remaining $11 million of those bonds could be refunded. But before I get to that, I'm just going to kind of page you through this book. There's a section, I guess, tab number 1, that shows the interest rate chart. That's a graph of the 10-year U.S. Treasury over the last 12 months, 2018. You'll see that we're essentially to one of the lowest points, and that's part of the reason why we're recommending looking at doing this refunding tonight and considering the parameters resolution next week. Then in this little booklet, I've got each of the 4 bond issues that are outstanding, and the summary, I've actually shown it graphically like this on I believe, page 6. And what it essentially shows is that your debt service payments have had a slight increase over the last few years. We've anticipated that there would be a decrease in taxable value. There would be some new properties and homeowners moving into the community, and they would assume their proportionate share of the debt. And we built this model back in 2016 when we originally issued the bonds. And I'm here tonight to say we've lived up to the promises that we made to the patrons when we issued those bonds, that there would not be an increase in the debt service tax levy for the course of the bonds. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of a notch down. I've also shown in green the Series 2009 bonds that are the refunding candidate. And the whole goal here would be to create room in the future, as we did in 2016, where if you decided to do another bond election or you had to issue debt in the future, that it could come online about where you hit that notch in your debt service. In a perfect world, you'd pay off all your bonds, and the next year you'd layer on the new bonds, and the old payments would exactly equal the new payments, and there would be no tax increase. We can't do that exactly because the bonds were issued at different times in 4 different series, but we can help smooth out any increase that there might be down the road for any future projects. And when we do a refunding, we like to take that into consideration in terms of how we stack the principal and interest. In the absence of that, we'd just save $100,000 a year, which is about what you'd save on this. But I'm going to come back to that graph. The next section, tab number 3, has a single table that looks like this. It shows the existing bonds and then the proposed refunding bonds, and then the far right-hand column shows the annual savings that you could realize by virtue of lower interest rates than what you're currently paying. And the old bonds outstanding have an interest rate of a little over 4.3%. Currently, if you were to issue debt, you're less than 2.5%, and the difference would be savings that are passed on to the patrons of the district in the form of lower interest rates. And so we've tried to quantify that, and on a net present value basis, there's about $800,000 in today's savings if we were able to lock in interest rates. Obviously, we can't lock those rates in tonight, but our goal would be to do that towards the tail end of February. If we did a refunding, I've drawn another graph, and it looks a lot like the previous graph, the green, where I've shown the refunding in light green. And ultimately, what we've done is we've kept the debt service tax levy about where it is for one more year, and then we've had a little more precipitous drop-off, assuming that you could do a bond election or there were other needs within the district capital-wise that couldn't be handled on a pay-as-you-go basis. And by taking the savings in that fashion would help mitigate any tax increase on the future bonds. The following page, for just illustrative purposes, I've added a couple of salmon-colored bars to show you how new money might fit in with the existing debt service. So the blue and green bars are your existing debt service, and the salmon colors would be potentially future bond issues that are amount and timing yet to be determined, but that's how they would fit into your overall debt service as an illustration.
Have you got a dollar amount associated with those?
I guessed, and I did $20 million in 2021 and $20 million in 2022. Now, what I don't have is what the projects would be. I just put those in knowing that you really can't do much of anything for $8 or $9 or $10 million anymore.
Okay.
The next little section, section number 4, I've got a little chart that looks like this that just shows the property tax debt service levy. And ultimately in 2015, just after you passed your bond election, that's when we kind of hit the peak in terms of the monies that went to the debt service fund to pay off the bonds. And what we've experienced has been pretty good growth in taxable value over the last 4 years, much more than anybody would have imagined. And as a result, those tax levies for debt service have slowly ratcheted down. And the patrons of the community ought to realize that the promises that were made when you did your last bond election have been met, and that at some point in time there will be other capital needs. The question is how far down do we allow that to drift before we address some of the capital needs that can't be financed on a pay-as-you-go basis. So in a nutshell, the item that we'll have next or in 2 weeks for your board meeting will be the parameters resolution that starts the whole process of refunding the balance of those 2009 bonds, approximately $11 million. As I mentioned earlier, we currently calculate the savings net present value of about $100,000 a year, or about $800,000 on a net present value basis. And I put in here a little bit of a calendar that gives you some idea of some of the steps that occur to get us to the point where we deliver the proceeds of the bonds and you actually pay off the existing bonds. And I think the first couple of items are worth mentioning. January 3rd is tonight. I would anticipate contacting, if you give me approval to talk to bond counsel, they would begin drafting documents and would probably get out a draft early next week on January 7th or 8th. Then the annual school board conference in Salt Lake is the tail end of next week, and then would come back on January 17th with that resolution that I mentioned, and then the work really starts where we start drafting the preliminary official statement and would offer the bonds for sale by a competitive sale to lock in the lowest rates. But with that, I'll open it up to any comments or questions that you might have.
On the, let me find the page. On page,
My apologies for not numbering the pages, but I'm really familiar with this presentation.
well, it's on page 3 of the online things that I looked at. So it's the sources and uses.
Okay.
Page.
What section is that in?
I don't know, in the book.
It's not in here, is it? I don't know if you included that in this
It's on,
presentation here.
It's on board docs.
Oh,
That's where I looked at it.
The board docs. I provided to Dale some preliminary estimates, and anytime we address the board, what we try to do is make an estimation as to what the cost of issuance might be on a transaction like this, so that the numbers that we portray to you are reflective of every cost in there. I think I just estimated what the underwriter's discount would be. That's determined at an arm's length transaction where bidders submit the best interest rates and the lowest fee. We think we can do better than that, but I think I put in about $4 per bond. And then in terms of the fixed cost of issuance, I just took a wild shot at what bond counsel, the rating agencies, I know what my fee will be, and we're hopeful that we can come in pretty close to the numbers that I've shown there.
It also lists on there a reoffering premium, and that's only about $1.1 million. Is that within the new laws for premiums that we can accept?
Those are great questions. On a refunding, to the extent they generate a premium, dollar for dollar, that reduces the par amount of bonds that you issue.
Mm-hmm.
And all the savings get passed on to the taxpayers within the district. If it was a new money issue, and you had unauthorized or unissued bonds,
Mhm.
currently you can keep what that premium is. But I guess starting with those that just barely passed a bond election, they've kind of forced that issue and coerced some of the districts into agreeing to abide by the old laws. But in any effect, the district's, not impacted by the new law until you do a bond election.
Okay, so not in a reoffering.
Right.
Okay.
So stated another way, if we generate $1.1 million in premium, then the par amount of the bonds that we would issue would probably be closer to $10 million as opposed to $11 million that I put in here.
Yeah, well, that's the number that you have here is 10, but then it brings it up to 11 when you add in the cost of the cost of issuance and the underwriters.
Right.
On that page.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
I think the thing that needs to be, the nail that needs to be pounded, and you need to understand is, this is really of no benefit to the district. It's a benefit to the taxpayers. So when we go into this, it's all taxpayer relief.
Yeah.
It's not anything that'll help Dale or me with additional revenue or anything like that, but it's a nice thing, I think, to do anytime the numbers dictate that we pass on those savings to our taxpayers who so greatly supported us in our bonding needs.
But also, as Preston said earlier, if we can reduce our bond obligation, then now a little bit, then it frees up more in the
Gives
future.
more room.
Because we're headed that way
Yeah,
anyway.
we are.
Yeah.
We are. Yep. And that's the benefit that the district does derive, is that the next time we go to add debt on top, it should be more advantageous for us to do that, and also in favor of the taxpayers in the amount of dollars that we'll have to go for.
So how would we explain this to someone who asks us a question about this? Because right now, to me, this sounds like.
Tell them to call Dale or.
Okay.
When I explain it, like, I got this question yesterday when I was doing my district finance presentation at a school community council at Cedar Ridge. So I got this question about bonds. And so how I explained it is when we had our two previous bond sales, it's kind of like, it's not called, I use the word refinance. It's not called refinancing in the bond arena. But for people to understand, I told them, so we were able to take some old bonds and refinance them At the same time, we were selling new bonds for a much lower interest rate. And so then we have about an $800,000 savings
Gotcha.
to the taxpayers.
Awesome, thank you.
So
Okay.
if you explain it kind of like refinancing a house to a lower interest rate, they get it.
Okay, great. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, Dale, the monthly financial report.
And we aren't gonna be offended if you start your trek back to Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the best part of the whole meeting here, the monthly financial report.
Now we're speaking his language, financial report.
I'm going to send one to Alan every month out there instead of a missionary letter.
Thanks, Dale, I just can't wait.
No, just quickly. We did start to receive some of the updated revenue estimates from the state in November, right at the tail end, and then a few more here at the end of December. But the problem was the big items that we generate our funding from is our basic levy, where it's made up of what we collect in property taxes, and the difference is made up in state subsidy. Well, they told us what the state subsidy update amount is, but they won't tell us how much they're anticipating we'll receive in local property taxes. So I don't know in total what we're actually qualified for. And the same thing hits with the voted and board leeway. The very same thing, because we collect part in property tax and the state brings us up to a guaranteed amount. But they promised us they'll get that information out to us here latter part of January. And then we'll really be able to see where we're sitting right now.
Is that why all the local lines say they're about 4% or 3%?
That's it.
I'm looking at the general fund, for instance, in revenue.
Yeah, state revenues were.
Well, property tax.
That's local property.
Right.
Local
So
revenues at 4.8.
it's a bogus number because you don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we anticipate we'll receive in property taxes, but whether the state calculates what they're paying us off that same number, that's what may be different. I doubt they're using our exact number, so it'll have to be adjusted. But we are sitting fine. Like I say, we have, about 86% of our general fund is tied up in salaries and benefits. And so as you look at the reports, you can see how in almost every case we're at or below where our spending was for last year at the same point in time, demonstrating that the budget is solid in that area. In debt service, on the third page there of the detailed report, we had our interest payment there of $3.4 million. Normally we have to pay that on the 1st of December to the state, and then they make the bond payments on December 15th. But where it fell on a weekend, they required us to actually pay it the last of November. So that's why that hit a little bit early. And as you can see, the fund right there is actually in the red. Because I received about $22 million on, I think it was the 14th of December, which is the large property tax receipts that we receive. That's the majority of it in December, and I get the rest of it in January. But that provided the funding that we needed to cover that. And then the one transaction Preston was talking about where we paid early the 2019 bond payment of the 2009 series of bonds. That's all scheduled to be paid out on the 10th of January. So we have the funding to do that, but that's what's going to generate about $5,000 of savings for us this year. And it's something we could do every year easily. Given the timing of when we receive those property tax funds, it works out very well to do that. So
Great idea.
Anyway, so all in all, I mean, we're sitting fine. In the general fund, we actually have over $4 million sitting there that's unappropriated. We are planning on using $1 million of that to help in the construction of the 10 classroom addition at Ridgeline High. And then we'll take $2 million out of the capital outlay fund And so it's nice to be able to finally be able to do some projects like that without having to always go to the voters for every little thing for funding. And so state equalization has helped us quite a bit in that case. But anyway, if you had any questions about any of the funds, the one area I would maybe show too is on the second to last page. There's it's under the health and accident / dental insurance fund. I'm just kind of interested watching this, that we can see that we have budgeted to receive $12.6 million in medical premiums. If you can see that, that's under the working budget. Well, it's actually under the original budget too. Last year we brought in, clear over on the far right side, about $11.4 million in premiums. And so we had I think it was an 8% increase in our premium rate this year.
We're missing that page.
And so that's going to generate, did you find the page?
No, we're missing it.
It's the second to last page of that detailed.
The second to last
Before that. It's up, right?
goes to capital projects. So we're missing the page in between.
I hid it from you. That's what it said.
But we can see on the grand totals, you can see the
Okay.
revenues and expenditures.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, it looks like we're going to generate about $1.2 million of additional premiums this year. But when you look down, well, you can't see it, but under the medical claims paid year to date, this year we're at $5.4 million that has been paid out, where last year we were at $4.2 million. So it's right at $1.2 million, which is exactly the difference of what we raised premiums. And so it's not responding perfectly. I mean, if everything trended exactly like it is right now, we'd be in the hole at the end of the year. But so it's something we've got to watch there very carefully. And someday I'd really like to have some nice reserves in there so I can sleep better at night. But I think it's still running fine. But we'll keep an eye on that. Anyway, if you had any questions, I don't know.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Dale. This month, we don't have anyone for board committee reports that I know of. But when you do attend your meetings, if you'll let me know, I'll get you put on the agenda so you can give us a report. It's good that all of us stay up on what's going on in the various areas that we're assigned to be present for. As far as the board president report, there was just a couple of things before our committee assignments I just wanted to mention to you. USBA is next week, all right, and we can get into our rooms by 3, and I think, I haven't looked at the schedule, but they usually start around 7 or so.
Yeah.
Is that what it is, usually? So whenever you can get there. Carolyn did request refunds on the spouses' lunches, and I don't know, did everybody get their check on that? She couldn't have ours reimbursed, so our lunches have still been paid for those who want to stay, and I guess leave your wives without lunch.
Well, they're really good places to eat close there.
Okay.
They'll
Or
find a place.
Or you can leave early and go home, whatever you want to do. I felt bad that we couldn't get reimbursed for that. But anyway, we'll see how this new schedule works out this year. And I think it's going to be good that they've canceled the last speaker, so we can head for home a little bit earlier. Okay? And then the second thing I wanted to just mention to you was Cherie Hansen sent me just a report of the Utah graduation rates by local education agency and school. And so she sent it to me looking like this, with all of the alternative high schools listed, marked. And there are 22 alternative schools in Utah. Beaver District, their Milford High, had the highest graduation rate, which was 90% of their students, and Cache High was 89%. So we are second, really close to first, but when you break it down in numbers, which you know I'm not very good at, so this is just kind of a wild estimate. From Cache High, we had about 80 kids who graduated from high school who probably would not have made it without Cache High. So I have sent her and the faculty a congratulations note from all of us for the good work they're doing there. And then she also sent me a copy of some things that students from the school there in Ron Stott's class wrote. He asked all of his students to write about what cash high means to them. And it's quite a big, did you get it? It's a big booklet, but I'll just read one of them to you. And I picked out several that were pretty awesome, but this one says, "Cash High has changed my life. It has made me a better person and a harder worker. It is a safe place for me. When things are going on, I know that that will be the one place that people will help me. It has changed my life around and given me a reason to try. This was the first place that anyone has told me I was good enough. I owe it not only to my amazing peers and new friends, but to the great supportive staff." I thought that was pretty cool. And there's just a whole bunch of them if anybody wants to take this and look at it.
We could actually get you an electronic copy.
Oh,
That would be great.
That would be great, because they really, some of them are very short, but they're all very heartfelt. And so I thought that was great. All right, now, if you'll just open up the board committee assignments there. I just wanted to check on a couple of things for our assignments. Larry, did you tell me that you can only be on the Cash Education Foundation for 2 years?
Right.
Okay, so we need to replace you.
I'm listed on here on the USBA Board of Directors, but I'm not serving in that position.
Okay,
Do you
so
want
that
me
one-
to take the Cash Education Foundation?
Oh, do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay, that'll be great. I'll get this information to Carolyn so she can update it. Are you still good with BTEC? Okay, and then the audit committee, just let me know if some of these you want to be changed from. There, you can take off the Family Information and Resource Committee that I'm on too. I'll tell her because they haven't asked me all year to come to a meeting, so obviously we're not there. Alan, should we keep you on the USBA Legislative Committee and just let the new person take that?
Until,
Tell-
but I think Roger's going to take that.
Okay.
The Utah High School Athletic Association.
Oh, this is the USBA Legislative Committee, what's that?
Oh, that's the pre-delegate meeting. Yeah, I can come on.
That's in August. He won't be here.
I won't be here. for that.
Okay, so, anybody want to volunteer for that? I'm
Well,
just-
we'll have voting for that
Yeah,
next
you
week.
vote on that
Oh.
next
We'll
week.
vote that person.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then the board policy, Larry, you still good on that? Then Roger is going to be the Utah High School Athletic Association.
After April.
After April. And Jeff, you still good on the calendar committee? Salary negotiations will be Roger.
Somebody will have to take my place on that one.
I'll be glad to do that. Curriculum committee, Terry, your name needs to be added to that. Right?
Oh, okay.
Because we both have kind of been to some meetings for that. Smithville Rec Center, social media committee, Randall. And then the board handbook, got to do a few changes on that. And then the evaluation, you may be gone, Ellen. Do you want to be on it till?
I'll stay on it until.
Okay, and Jeff, you still good? Okay, and then the ACE committee, just me. So everybody good with that? Okay, great. We'll turn the time over to you, Superintendent.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
You've heard Dale talking, and as the holidays approached, he wanted to go ice fishing. And I finally succumbed and went with him, and we were sitting around on the lake, and I said, "You sure there's not going to be any ramifications of sitting here for all day and just getting colder and colder and colder?" And he promised me there'd be no ramifications. He's almost got pneumonia, and I just got out of the hospital. But that's not a true story, but I don't know what his story is, but mine was too many grandkids and too many late nights around Christmas time. But I've asked a couple of people to share with you. Today was report card day for our schools. They finally released the results of the new grading system. It's kind of complicated. I think you've got some material.
But it didn't make much sense.
But anyway, we're going to try and give you, in a nutshell, a Reader's Digest version. how well our schools have done.
So where did we get some information on that?
It came in
Oh.
an email
Oh,
today.
okay, missed
It
it.
did?
Yeah,
Was it on the district email? Or,
I don't know, I got it on a Gmail.
Oh, I didn't get any.
okay.
Oh, maybe it was, let me see if I can find it.
Your original packet should have come right from the state office. Went to all board members and,
Oh, I got it off of social media.
okay. But anyway, this will give you your,
Okay.
Okay. So in the past, we have gotten a grade, a school grade for each school, and that's been part of that accountability report. I wanted to talk just a little bit about, we no longer get grades, but we still have a report card, and so I'm going to explain what we've done here. What you have in front of you is a version that we've put all of the information on one page for you. But before we go to there, if you'll look what Tim has put up on there for us.
Can you put that on our screens?
I don't know.
it is.
Turn it on.
Turn yours on.
Coming?
Okay.
So you
That
can
sounds like what Larry used to tell me when I'd ask him to come down to my room to see what was wrong with my computer. Plug it in. Okay, go ahead.
So you can see, this is how it's divided up, and it's divided up a little bit differently between your elementary and middle versus your high school. These are, each school at the elementary gets up to 150 points, and 37% of that comes from their proficiency, 37%, or in other words, 56 points. 56 points comes from their growth, or 37%. Then you have your English language learners, and that is actually 9% of those, or 7 points. And then your growth score, or your growth of your bottom 25% of your students, makes up for 17%, or 20 of those points. So if you think about it, you've got all the kids in one school, all kids are counted for that proficiency and that growth score. But then you take those bottom 25% and they get counted a second time because that other 17%. And then your EL students, your English language learners, are counted also a second time. Now, if they happen to be in your bottom 25%, those kids could be counted 3 times. So as a school looks at this report card and they look at where do I need to focus, of course we want to focus on those areas that are low, but if you really want to have the most bang for your buck, you've got some students that could count in there up to 3 different times. So if you can get 1 or 2 or 3 of those students to show some growth or reach a certain proficiency, you're going to see a much greater impact on your report card. We no longer do the A, B, C, D. Will you show that next one, Tim? This is what the report card looks like for Birch Creek Elementary, for example. You've got achievement, you have growth, and then you have your EL students. And you can see the little tachometer there, if you will, that gauge. That's what you see when you go online and you look at it. So what we've done is, and Robin Hedgecock put a lot of this together for us, so I just want to make sure we give her credit. If you look on the sheet that I handed you, though, let's take Birch Creek right there and look across the top. That first group of data, you have their achievement. Remember, that accounts for 37% of their points, or 56 out of the 150. They've got their English language arts, 60.1% of their students are proficient. In math, 66.8% are proficient, and in science, 68.3% are proficient. That gets a rating of exemplary. Now, if you want to break it down, I did find a place on the state website that exemplary would be considered an A. If you look across now at their growth, English language arts is a 57.9%, math 57.6%, and science 68.8%, and that gets a rating of commendable. And that would be considered a B if you were to make these ABCs. If you go to the bottom 25%, the lowest 25% of our students, 78.2% of those students showed a growth of at least 40 or more, and that's the key number. which gave them a high ranking there. And then if you go to their EL students, 52.2% of their students made a rating there. That's a typical rating. They made the adequate progress. So what does all of that mean? We can't lump all of that together and get one grade of a B score like we used to. We can't lump all of that together and get an exemplary or a commendable or a high or a typical rating overall as a school. But I don't think that's a bad thing, especially as an individual school or as a building administrator. I can now look at this and say, okay, where do I really need to focus? If my proficiency is high, it stands to reason that my growth might be a little bit lower. If my proficiency is low, it's easier to have a higher growth score. See how that works? If I've got high scores in both my growth and my proficiency, though, but my EL students are struggling, well, now I know where to focus there. Or my bottom 25% are just not making the growth that I need. Or they're making growth, but they're not making proficiency. This is going to be a little more difficult for the 10 o'clock news to give, a ranking A, B, C, D to every school or every district. But I think it's more beneficial for us as educators to pinpoint and drill down what we really need to focus on as a school, our specific goals, and as we get down to students and their specific needs.
It's actionable then, you can.
It is, very, very much.
So who puts in all of the data to get these numbers? Is it here at the district office? Do individual teachers do it?
So this is a result of our SAGE scores from last year.
So it's the state.
All of that gets submitted to the state, and then they give that report card that I showed you a second ago. Robin Hedgecock went ahead and looked up all of those for us and put it into a nice little spreadsheet front and back so that we can...
So it's not more work for anyone in our district, except for maybe Robin?
Yeah.
Or is it more work?
Well, you mean coming up with this?
Well, coming up with...
The state will give you, if you go on the website, it's very, very, very easy to negotiate. Even I felt it was easy to negotiate. And you can you get this report card, and then you can drill down from there. What we wanted to try and do was, so you didn't have to spend a whole lot of time on the computer. This is just as a capsule of how our schools did.
So if you go to the view details, then that would drill down and get the data that we're looking for.
It goes nicely, it just drills right on down, so.
Okay.
Well, what I'm getting at, and kind of my concern, is more work for teachers, administrators, people here in the district, because everyone's already overloaded.
No, I don't
Okay.
think this is any more work.
Okay. Okay, I'm good at that.
We could drill down before with the other, and we can drill down with this, but we just wanted to give you a one-page simple. If you look at the set of data just below those, what you have is the number of schools at each level, whether it be achievement, growth, or EL students, or that lower bottom 25%, that lower quartile. So you can see how many schools fell into each of those areas. And then, of course, we as schools will be looking at those, and those will be part of our school improving plans or our trust land plans and areas of focus, like you say, actionable goals.
If you want to just more like a consumer report on a car, if you look at in the performance or achievement is not very high, growth is not very high, and then the ELL learners in the lower 25 are not doing well, you've got a lemon, and you better be looking at what you need to do.
To fix it.
We don't really fall in that category, but if you look across the state, you'll find that there are many schools that are in that category. And then remember what he told you about, if you have high achievement, your kids are already performing at this level, and so when you look at growth, you've got kids already performing here, and it's harder to raise them up here than it is the low kids coming up. So if you have a high achievement and high growth, and with the area that I think that we're really struggling with, and we are struggling, in comparison to the state, we're not struggling, but in what I think we ought to be doing for our English language learners, we've got a lot of work that we could improve to get those kids' scores up. So,
Are they the lowest group?
yeah, they're pretty much.
The English
Probably a
language?
lot of that. You know, I talked with Robin Clement just today about our EL students, and it was interesting. I did not realize until last week when I dug down with this data, that EL score that you see and that progress and that growth that we're looking at comes from the WIDA. And I thought it came from SAGE testing, but that actually comes from the WIDA. And so we're going to focus a little more on how we test, and that used to not be the case. It used to come from SAGE, but just last year, I think was the first year, they started to use the WIDA to determine that.
What does WIDA stand for? Or what is it?
WIDA, what does it
It's
stand
a
for?
test they go just to English.
Yeah.
It's
English
for,
language
and,
learners.
and what we've used it was, it's a scale of 1 to 5, and we use it to determine whether those kids still need to be receiving ESL services, and at what level of proficiency they're at with their reading, their writing, and their speaking, and their listening.
Okay.
So we've always used that to help place students and to determine how much time they need and how many resources we give to them. But as we look at it, it's counting in this, and that's where they're deriving these scores from. And as I talked with Robin just today, she said, interestingly enough, it's not our reading scores that are the lowest in that, and it's not our writing scores that are the lowest in that. It's actually the speaking.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And is that because of the
That goes
English
against all
language?
other national data that's
Oh,
out
yeah.
there. In all honesty, the speaking comes first, and then the reading and writing come later.
Cell phones.
But we're slipping in that area. So that's something that was new to me. We've drilled down and focused so heavily on the reading and writing. It could be something as simple as the way they're taking the test and the way they're speaking. I mean, a microphone might throw some of those kids. It's something new they haven't done before. So we're going to spend some time looking at exactly how we test, make sure that we're covering everything there. And then we're actually talking with our speech and language pathologist to see how they teach some of the speech that they teach, so that we can teach our ESL student or teachers to do some of those same strategies to help. And in my mind, the speaking ought to be an easier fix than the reading and writing. So that's something but this has allowed us to identify that and to say, hey, here's an area that we need to drill down a little deeper and focus on.
What's the one under typical?
The one, hang on,
they don't show up?
Developing.
Huh? Developing?
Developing.
Yeah.
So developing would be considered a D, and then critical is the F, if you were to A through F.
Kathy? World-class instructional design and assessment.
There you go.
Is WIDA.
Oh, no wonder we call it WIDA. Thank you.
Try and remember that one in your bank.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Well,
Any questions for me? I'm going to turn time over to Mike and let him talk secondary for just a second, because it is a little bit different.
okay, thank you.
I'm going to just focus on the spreadsheet here. So Tim, if you'll go to the spreadsheet, because you can see the categories there. If you go around to the other page, you want to look at the middle schools. If you go right there right in the middle, North Cache, South Cache, and Spring Creek. So they're lumping the middle schools in with the elementary because they have the same indicators. The only one that are different is when we get into our high schools. But if you take a look across on our middle schools there, Spring Creek has always done an excellent job in all categories. And if you keep going across the page there, and you get to the EL adequate progress, I think what the superintendent said, we have a lot of room to improve in our district on helping those kids make progress. Now, Spring Creek knows what they're doing. And so all that's telling me is I have a school who can teach the other two schools what to do. And so that's the direction that this is telling me to take a look at when it's coming to EL and growth in those areas. Now, if you go to the back page, here's where the 4 high schools are. And it was already pointed out, if you take a look at our achievement, all 4 of our high schools are doing a nice job as far as academic achievement. But if we swing across over to the very end, this is here again, there's your EL progress. And it's right now, it's our Achilles heel that we need to really take a focus on. And Gary made the mention that this is where you start looking at your greatest academic need. Well, it's very obvious right now when you get these types of results what schools should be focusing on to try to improve that. Now, if you get above post-secondary readiness, this is what's a little bit unique and different for secondary. ACTs, scores, graduation rate, the coursework, which means AP classes, concurrent enrollment classes, the number that students are taking and how well they're doing. And then you get your rating for post-secondary readiness, and our high schools are doing very well there as far as those readiness scores go. But this gives a lot of information. I know that some of my principals were very worried about, with this new assessment and the model that we're going to be, is this going to be able to give us information that we can really focus on and say, where do we really need to improve? I think this is very obvious, gives us that information. I asked Tim before we started the meeting, in the past we were able to see how we were compared to the rest of the state. And how in all these different categories, what do we look like? And right now we don't have that information, and I sure wish we could have that information, just see how well we do. Because all we're doing now is just looking at ourselves. Yeah.
Maybe just to speak to that real quick. Last time we gave you data with regards to how we compare with the rest of the state, we showed you that we lead the state in science and mathematics. We're the #1 school district in the state as for our overall proficiency scores. And we're second in math. And then we showed you a list of schools, like the top, how many of our schools scored in the top 10% of elementaries, how many schools in the top 25 of middle and high. So it's not, what Mike is saying is there's no state comparison on these report cards, but there's state comparisons on the achievement and the growth and the proficiency that we've already shown you. They just don't do that on the report cards. The report cards are individual to that school, but there are reports that we can give you that show how we compare proficiency-wise across the state, and we do very well. And that's in that State of the District report. Yeah. We have several graphs in there that compare us to other districts in the state.
So with us just getting our first eyes on it, the first day or two looking at it, that's just kind of the 30,000-foot level information that we can give you at this point. But overall, I think our schools are doing very well, but it's very obvious EL needs a little more attention at our level.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead. Why no graduation rate for Mountain Crest? I can understand maybe Green Canyon, but there's just a blank spot there for.
No, for Mountain Crest, they should have had a graduation rate.
There isn't one.
Yeah, she just may have missed the data on that.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to pass this along because I heard this from an administrator a year or so ago, and I don't even know anything about this, so I'm just giving you the information. The statement was made that the EL students are able to test out of like a resource class or whatever it is that they take to get extra help, but when they test out, they still really need a lot of help, and they're
So maybe
not,
that's a reflection of this?
That's determined by that WIDA test.
Mm-hmm.
If they test out of that on the WIDA,
Yeah.
then they no longer qualify.
Then we can't put them in that.
and you can't
keep
give them
in
extra
that
help.
program.
Well, that could be part
That
of
could
the
be part
problem.
of it. Could be part of it.
I don't know.
Mhm.
So just passing it along.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyway, that's just so you'd have some information that would help you to understand. The website is really easy. If I say that, I promise you, it's easy. Yeah, so.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else? Right. Thank you so much to the school board and all that you do to help our district and to our district folks. And there's nothing left on the agenda, so I will call this meeting into adjournment.